Hey there everyone, it's Kathy Champion and you're back here in my craft room and on my YouTube channel, Kathy's Random Acts of Stampin'. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today I wanted to go over something that I know we all struggle with, and that's when we get to a point where we're lost for ideas of what to do. I've been there. I'm sure you've been there. Yeah, we draw inspiration from one another. We see cards on Pinterest. We see cards on YouTube. We see all kinds of things. But what if you just sit down and you want to make something, but you just don't know where to start? I'm going to try to clear that up today and show you what I do. Grab yourself a plain piece of thick basic white cardstock. This we're going to use for our card base. Grab yourself a colored piece of paper, whatever color makes you happy. I happen to choose polished pink. I also went ahead and grabbed the polished pink ink. Great thing about Stampin' Up!, and you already know that if you're familiar with Stampin' Up!, is the coordination. Designer series paper, inks, markers, colored pencils, everything coordinates. So there's my ink, my colored cardstock, my basic cardstock, an embossing folder I just pulled at random, and a stamp set that I pulled at random. This was one I was going to use in my last video, but I didn't, and I thought what a good time just to pull this one back in and just have some fun with it. So that's what I chose. Now also I am going to choose a die, and when you're choosing a die, try to grab something that is very versatile. So here's my scallop contour dies. This is always one of my go-to die sets. So we have dies, we have stamps, we have embossing folders, we have ink, and we have paper. I think we're ready to go. I'm going to set everything over to the side, and I'm going to concentrate first on my card base. Now I decided today I'm not going to do anything super fancy. I'm just going to pull out my trimmer. I'm going to put this in, and I'm going to cut this on the 11-inch side in half at 5.5. This is going to give us our standard A2 size card, which is 5.5 by 4.25. So this is now on the 8.5-inch side. So we're going to score it in half at 4 1/4. Make sure you get that cut blade out of your way. Bring this down a good score, and then we're going to fold it. I'm going to go ahead and pull that off of my desk for a minute because we are going to need a few tools, and I'm sure if you're crafting in your craft room or your crafting area, you've got your tools at hand. So I'm going to grab my bone folder, and I'm just going to crease this down. Now what you want to do is you want to make sure that your edges are edge to edge. That is crucial when you're folding your card. So I like to hold mine at one end and just do that, and then that pretty much gives us a nice card base. That looks pretty good. A little off right there, but you know what? We are going to go with it. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to make a mat to go on here. So I know in order to mat a 4.5 by 5, I mean a 4.25 by 5.5-inch card, I need to cut this piece to 4 inches by 5 1/4. That will give me that little border all the way around that I'm wanting. I'm going to turn it this way, and I'm going to bring it to the 4-inch mark. This is also a good class for anyone that's new in card making because it's giving you some of your basics. So I'm going to take this to 5 1/4. Now we have a mat to go on the front of this card, but I want to jazz it up a little bit, so I'm going to run it through that embossing folder. So I'm going to grab my card, or my piece of cardstock. And this is the quadrifold tile embossing folder. It's very pretty. This is new in our annual catalog for this year. And I'm going to line that up on that line. There's a black line I don't know if you can see that, but that black line runs from here to here. And if you line your cardstock up on that line, it's not going to be, what's the word? Cockeyed. I think that would be the right word. Now this is not a 3D embossing folder, so since it's not a 3D, we're going to need our number 1 plate and our 2 cut plates, which are 2 number 3 plates. We do not need the die cut adapter plate, so I'm going to lay it to the side. And I'm just going to lay this onto my cut plate and put my cover plate over it. And I'm going to crank this through my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. Alright, so now we have embossed this. And look how beautiful that is. So I'm going to lay my embossing folder over. And you have a embossed, which is the raised up side, and you have a debossed. You can decide at this point which one you like. I like the embossed side, so I'm going to have that side up. Let me put my plates back together. And I'm going to go ahead, no, I'm not going to glue that down yet. I'm going to take another piece of that white. Remember, we cut a piece in half. And I am going to cut this in half one more time. So I know it's 8 1/2, so 4 1/4 will give me half of it. And you might say, why are you doing that? Because I'm getting ready to die cut. And whenever I die cut, I like to have my piece to be as close to the size as I want it as possible. So I'm going to take this 3rd, no, maybe the 4th. Yeah, I'm going to take that 4th next to the largest scalloped rectangle. And, oops, I dropped a flower. Oh, goodness. It just slid right out of there. That's one thing you want to be really careful with is your dies, because if you lose one, you will be looking forever. Now what I'm going to do with this is I have some little post-it flags, and I like to just put my die down with those. It just kind of holds it in place. And I'm going to take this back over to my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, because not only does it emboss, but it also cuts out any of your die cuts, any of your dies. So this is going to cut me this beautiful little piece, and look how pretty that is. Not only does it cut this beautiful scallop, but we also have that stitch marks around the edge of it, which is beautiful. So we are going to actually stamp on that. So I'm going to move everything out of my way. And then we're going to bring that stamp set over. And I think for this, I want to do this larger flower. And I think I want to bring it about like that. But now I need to think about my color choices, because I don't want my stems the same color as my flower. So I think what I may do is go ahead and stamp this in my Memento ink. Then I can come in with my alcohol markers and actually color this with no problem whatsoever. So let's go ahead and grab a stamp block that will accommodate that piece. And I'm going to pick it up like that. And because this is a larger stamp, I'm going to turn it over and I'm going to ink it up just like this. Gives me a nice coverage of ink. And now all I'm going to do is sit it down exactly where I want it to live. And I think right about there is good. And I'm just going to give it a good press. Couple of presses on it. You want to allow that ink to have time to transfer to the paper. And there is our beautiful image. So now I can take my markers, and I'm only going to grab maybe 3 colors. I'm going to grab my polished pink. I'm going to get my dark crumb cake, and I'm going to grab my old olive. Now these are my Stampin' Blends. These are alcohol markers. I'm going to fan this just a little bit because I want to make sure that ink has dried. And you can see how pretty our card's going to be as we build it. And you can do this with any of your stamp sets. This will work with any stamp set that you have. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go in with my light polished pink. And I'm going to use the brush tip. And I'm just going to go in and put a little color down on this flower. There I go, getting quiet on y'all. I think I need to go to my bullet tip instead of that one. I'm getting outside of my lines a little bit, and I don't want that. This gives you a little bit more control when you're in a small area. You have two tips on your Stampin' your Stampin' Blends. You have a brush tip and you have a bullet tip. So it gives you the versatility to use what you like or what is necessary for the project that you're working with. So I'm not going to color that completely. I just want to get a little bit of color in there. I'm going to come back in with my dark, and where those lines are at, I'm just going to add a little bit of dark in there. Just to give it a little bit of color. I'm going to come back with that crumb cake, and I want to color the top of this because I think it should have a little bit of a brown to it. We'll do this one too while we got this color out. And let's get this light polished pink again because I want to go in and do a little bit of coloring. I'm going to zoom y'all in just a little bit so that you can better see. And you know, it doesn't have to be perfect. I think when we color, a lot of times we feel like it has to be perfection. Once you put down a couple layers of color and you blend those colors together, it's going to be gorgeous. All right, I'm going to go back in now with my dark polished pink. And I'm just going to run some color, like I said, along where the artist put in these little lines for us to use, and that's what I'm doing. I'm taking advantage of those. I'm going to get a little bit darker up around that area, and then we're going to take this one and go back. I think I'm going to go back and drag this color first. And you can see how pretty that's blending. And it's kind of giving you that two-tone color just by using these two different shades. And that's all you have to do when you're coloring. You don't have to be perfect. Just put down a couple of different colors and blend them together. And like I always say, it doesn't have to be rocket science. You know, we've been coloring since we were old enough to hold a crayon. So this is no different. It's just done with a little bit higher end medium. And look how pretty that is. Now I'm going to go back with that dark one because I want some dark on the bottom of this flower. I feel like this needs to be a little bit darker right there. Put a little bit of dark in that one. And I'm going to come back with this one and just blend everything out. And that looks really pretty. So now I'm going to do the same thing with my old olive. I've got my dark old olive, and I am going to come in here and just put some lines. I'm going to follow the lines in these leaves a little bit. Same thing with the stem. Just like that. And then I'm going to come back with my light, and we're just going to blend everything out using the lighter one. And this is going to be so pretty, and I think this this old olive and this polished pink is just absolutely beautiful together. And we're going to turn it. I like to turn my piece to make it easier for me to access where I need to color. Just like I said, just like you did when you were coloring when you were little. I did a lot of coloring when I was little because my grandmother, she sewed, and she would always buy me coloring books when she would go and buy material. Sometimes paper dolls, because I love to cut out paper dolls too. And that's all we need to do with our flowers. That was quick and easy. Love it when a project comes together so quickly. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to center this onto this card. To give it a little extra dimension, I'm going to bring in my my Stampin' Dimensionals, and I'm going to put one on each corner. And then I'm going to put one here and one here, just to kind of balance everything out. And I like to use my little take your pick tool. This works out really good for me to pick these up. I can get them all off. And usually I'm really good if I pick up about 3 of them. After that, I think sometimes you can do 4, but usually 3 will give you pretty much what you need. And I can pick them up and put them all in my trash can at one time. So I'm going to put that on right about there. I just did a little eyeball center, and look how pretty that is. Isn't that gorgeous? So now we can bring over our card base, and this is ready to glue down. So pretty. Let me zoom y'all out just a little bit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some liquid glue. And the reason I chose liquid glue for this, oops, and my bottle of glue is oozing. I had it upside down. I'm going to put a good amount of glue on this because of the nooks and crannies, because this was the piece we embossed. So you definitely need to put a little extra something so it gets down in all those little nooks and crannies and it doesn't lift up. So what I want to do now is I'm going to start down here at the bottom. I'm looking at my border, top, bottom, side to side. And once I get that where I want it, I'm going to press it down. We're still not done. Y'all know I want to jazz this up a little bit more. We have the rest of that polished pink, so I'm going to cut a mat for the inside. And again, this is going to be 4 inches by 5 1/4. And I'm also going to need a middle piece to go in. So let me grab, and I think I used up all of my white. So, but you know what? I've always got scraps. So I'm going to reach down here in my scrap bin. And I'm going to grab another piece of white. And I'm going to cut this one at 3 3/4. I'm going to come back a quarter of an inch less than I had, which will give us 1/8 of an inch all the way around. So, and I'm going to do this at 5 instead of 5 1/4. So 3 3/4 by 5 inches. And this will give us our piece for the inside. Now, very simple. I'm just going to glue this down. I'm not going to emboss this. I just want it to kind of mimic the outside, but I don't need that extra bulk inside. And I think for this one, I'm going to bring in my Stampin' Seal. I'm just going to run a line of Stampin' Seal all the way around. And just a little piece in the middle. And I'm going to do the same thing with this. I'm going to hold it to the edge and find my about 1/8 of an inch. And over. Once I get that top and sides about where I want it, then I can press everything else down. Now we're going to need a little sentiment. And this stamp set doesn't have small sentiments. I think I could probably get thank you on there, but I should have already done that. So I'm not going to do anything. I think sending you healing thoughts. May nature's beauty bring peace to your soul. I'm going to stamp that on the inside. I'm going to stamp that right inside. I wish I had remembered to put something on there before, but I got carried away, and that happens. So I'm going to line that up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use my grid mat to kind of help me with the placement of this stamp. So I want to make sure it's nice and even. Then I'm going to pick it up on a block, and I'm going to bring it over to my ink, and I'm just going to ink it up. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to do my best to center it. I'm holding it and let it transfer. And that is so pretty. It's so soft and so delicate. Now I do want to do a couple other things. I want to bring in some embellishments. I want to find something that has that beautiful polished pink on it. And surely we do. If we don't, you know what we'll do? We'll make some polished pink. You might say, how are you going to do that? We're going to use those alcohol markers. So if you don't have a polished pink, here's my iridescent pearls. They are absolutely gorgeous, but they won't show up on white very well. So what am I going to do? I'm going to take these larger ones right here, and I'm going to use my dark polished pink, and I'm going to use the brush tip, and I'm just going to come in here and put some of that polished pink all over that piece. And I want to do about 3 of them. About like that. Don't they look pretty? Now I'm going to let them dry just for a sec. So while they're drying, we're going to go ahead and put this inside of our card. So a little liquid glue. And then we're going to do the same thing. I want to sit this in. And I want to try to make sure I'm getting my borders nice and straight. That used to be my biggest struggle in card making, was getting my layers on straight. And you know, even now, there are times that I will glue something in and it's not exactly where I want it. It happens to any of us. We are human. So I always tell people, don't be so hard on yourself. Now I'm going to take that iridescent pearl and make sure I got enough of ink on it. That one doesn't look like I got it quite all the way around. And that looks better. And I'm going to use my little, I'll blow on those just to help dry them off a little bit. And I'm going to put, oops, I'm going to put one right here. And my putty needs a little bit of help, I think. Well, put one right here. And let's get this last one. And I want him about there. Now, one other thing I would love to do is I'd love to put a piece of twine. Let's see what we have. We might have something in polished pink that we could do. And you know what? I've got a little piece of polished pink ribbon right here. I don't know if this is going to be too overpowering. If it is, we'll come back. This was a piece of polished pink ribbon, and I'm going to do my best to see if I can do a little bow, because I don't want anything overpowering. I want it to be small and dainty. Keep that on my finger. Well, that was an epic fail. Let's try something a little different. Let's just do a little tiny regular bow. And let's get our ends. Oh yeah, that looks cute. Have to fumble with my bows sometime a little bit to get them where I want them. But once you get them shaped about like you want them, then you want to really pull it and get it tight. And I'm going to grab my scissors and I'm going to trim off about like that and about like that. And then this is going to play really good right here in the middle of that, and I'm going to use a glue dot to put that down with. So let me find my glue dots, and here they are. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the bow itself and just take it to the glue dot and give it a press, and then that glue dot comes right off with your bow, and then we can adhere it right about there. And how cute is that for a really quick, very simple, really not thinking about it. I just grabbed some paper and a stamp set and the embellishments as I went. So a die set, a stamp set, an embossing folder, and 2 colors of cardstock, a white and then a solid. And you can make anything like that. You do need to have some markers. Most of us do have some sort of markers, and if you don't have alcohol markers, you could very easily use your Stampin' Write markers or any other type of coloring device that you have. Some colored pencils, you could have done the same thing with this. So I challenge you, give this a try. Just reach in your stash and pull out what you have and see what you can come up with and put a card together, something like this. Next time I'll definitely stamp down here a get well or a hello friend or something. That was definitely an oversight on my part. We probably could go back and put something there, but I think it would take away from it. So I'm just going to leave it as a card like this, and then when they open it up, they'll see that I'm sending healing thoughts. May nature's beauty bring peace to your soul. I think it's a beautiful card. Turned out wonderful. Thanks so much for tuning in today. I know this was a quick, very simple little tutorial, but hopefully it would help someone that's out there that's new. You know, we all had to start somewhere, and not all of us are expert card makers. I remember when I started out, and I was a little overwhelmed because I saw way too much, and I just did not know where to start. So today, hopefully this has given everyone a place to start and So jump on the bandwagon and let's make some beautiful cards. And don't forget to mail them out to people that you care about, or maybe even not even people you know. If you make a lot of cards, take them to the nursing homes. They can always use them. And as I always say in closing, let everything that you do and say bring glory to our Father in heaven. He is worthy. So with that, I'm going to close out and tell you that I love you all very much. Be kind, be generous, and always show the love of Christ to others. Thank you so much for tuning in. See you next time. Bye-bye.